Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
The raid is over. Pulling the trigger is like ordering takeout.
Selamat pagi. Mungkin Anda sudah mendengar kalau kita kedatangan tamu tak diundang. Selamat bekerja. Dan jangan lupa bersenang-senang.
Okay, so we're talking about The Raid, Andy. The Raid Redemption. What version did you watch? Both versions are out. I had the option of getting either theatrical or unrated from the iTunes store, and I chose unrated this time. I didn't have it in my collection, and I really enjoyed this movie, so I pulled the trigger on that.
I mean, I got the Blu-ray from Netflix, and honestly, I don't know if it said on it what it was. Let's see, the versions.
Oh, this is the scene in the beginning when he's doing all the headshots. There is a single cut there that is very, very grotesque that they keep in.
The close-up of the bloody headshot the third victim receives is missing.
Is it possible there are only two differences?
Yeah, it looks like it. There's a 2.88 second difference and a 7.36. So it's a knife in the neck and the shot to the head.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not going to tell you, Andy, that those two cuts dramatically change the movie. But I'd like to. I won't, but I'd like to. But I would be lying if I did that.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. The Blu-ray that looks like it was released, it says unrated edition on it, so I'm assuming that is the version that I watched. So I probably saw the extra 10 seconds.
So you saw the goo on the brain, and you saw the 7 seconds. Okay, good. Well, then we're on the same page.
Phew.
What'd you think? We're doing the raid because we're doing franchises, continuing our march through franchise land here on the next reel for this season. And the raid is next. And you might also call this the fourth movie in the Before trilogy. Before the raid, Andy, before the raid. Can you imagine if Jesse and Celine were on the 30th floor? That would have been awesome.
So the raid, what's interesting is that this film had to have its name changed when it was released here in the U.S. It's called The Raid. If you translate the Indonesian title, which is Serbuan Muat, I think, it translates to The Deadly Raid, basically. I don't know why there must be another film named The Raid somewhat recently, because Sony Pictures Classics, when they were distributing it, they couldn't secure the rights to the title The Raid, and so they had to add Redemption to it, which is a strange addition that they had to do. But it's only specifically for the U.S. release because of that very reason.
That's weird.
2012, there was another film called The Raid. And there's a 1954 film, The Raid. There's The Great Raid from 2005. I don't know why, 2003, Raid. I don't know why they would have had such a difficulty in securing the title. Anyway, going off on a tangent.
So what'd you think of that? How many have you've seen this before? What was your initial take on it this time around?
I have seen this before. I think this is film that I ended up watching after I saw Dredd because of the comparisons to Dredd. And so I was curious about it. And so I checked it out because I'd heard such good things about it. And then I ended up buying the sequel without having seen it just because I loved this one so much. So yeah, it's a film that I really enjoy. I think the action sequences are a thrill to watch. And it's an interesting film because while it certainly received a lot of praise for its action and everything, there were a number of critics who felt, there isn't a lot to it. I mean, Ebert is one of them. I mean, he gave it 1 out of 4 and he said that it lacked character depth. And he said, quote, "The Welsh director, Gareth Evans, knows there's a fanboy audience for his formula in which special effects amp up the mayhem in senseless carnage." And so, yeah, I think there was certainly that perspective on this film, but I don't know. I feel I kind of hate that Ebert throws the word fanboy into that, but because I feel like there is, while the story isn't completely overflowing with a lot of complexity, I find that it is an incredibly gratifying film in the way it's crafted, and there are enough layers to some of the things going on in the story that it does, make for surprises and a lot of interest and intrigue. So, yeah, I have just a fantastic time with this one.
Just before we get into the conversation writ large, what have you seen of Gareth Evans' work?
I have not seen the first film that he did with Iko Uwais, who he did this one.
Marantau.
Marantau. I haven't seen that one. It's something that I feel like I want to put on my list. I'm just very curious about it. And then I think he's done something else after The Raid 2, but I don't know what it is.
Apostle.
Okay, yeah. So,
mm-hmm. And he did action sequences. He directed the action sequences in Gangs of London.
But I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, that's a TV show.
Oh, it looks like it's a TV show. Okay, yeah. All right.
You wouldn't have ever heard of that.
And it looks like he has a new Netflix movie coming out with Tom Hardy called Havoc that was slated for this year, but is now moved to 2023. So,
Yeah, he's got a couple of things in pre-production, and Deathstroke is rumored. Are they giving him the...
Yeah, the DC comic character.
That'd be interesting. So, I'm less than that. I've seen this, and then I should stop talking because I haven't seen VHS 2, the segment he did there. I haven't even seen the Raid 2, but I own it because of this conversation, and I really, really like this movie.
Oh, I did see his segment in VHS too. I forgot that he did that one. That was a fantastic segment.
Was it?
Yeah, loved it. And the best segment of that film.
Oh, good. Well, I should watch that then. So anyway, I haven't seen anything else besides this movie.
Wow, okay.
So eager to hear how we get through it.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Well, this film, when it was released here in the States, was rated R for strong, brutal, bloody violence throughout, and a little bit of language.
All right, Andy, here we are.
Here we are.
It's time for the raid. We're on the first floor of the raid. Set up the conceit.
On the surface, it's a very simple film. It is essentially a SWAT team that is going to be raiding this building that's probably, 15 floors, something like that. And they are breaking into this, this building, essentially apartments, that is being run by a gang leader. He kind of runs this area, and this building is full of all of his different criminals, and he rents out rooms to addicts and all this stuff. So basically, it is a building full of criminals. And this SWAT team is coming in to basically try cleaning up the city. You don't get a lot of reason as to why, but that comes later in the film. And so we're following along with a rookie cop named Rama, who is thrust into this, and they're basically working. It's a squad working their way up this building, trying to get to the top so they can stop this criminal overlord who's ruling things. That's the general conceit.
It's about as video game movie as you could find. Like it literally, you're just climbing a building, and they use the language. Like there's a big boss, and then he has two mini bosses that work for him, and you have to beat all the bosses and all the thugs to get to the big boss. And it is pretty straightforward conceit. But this is why I think I get so frustrated with Roger Ebert's review, right? That it lacks character development, because I feel like he didn't understand the movie going into it, right? There is the thing that works for me about this movie is not necessarily the character development, although I think they seed a number of interesting emotional beats. The fact that that our young rookie SWAT team member is about to become a dad and puts himself in this sort of dangerous situation, raises the stakes. That's interesting to me.
Well, and there's mystery right at the beginning, because he says to his dad something like, "I'll bring him back," and so
I'll bring him home.
What does this mean? Yeah. So
there is stuff in there, but also it totally disrespects the massive amount of work that goes into the production design and the stunts and the fights and all of that is just as much craft as character design in some cases. Like I think I think that's why you watch this movie, right? You watch this movie for the work, that the physicality of it, and it's okay to celebrate a movie for the physicality of it.
I mean, and I understand that perspective, because there have been so many movies that are just about the physicality, and it can become very tedious to watch a film that is basically nothing but fighting or in whatever, whether it's just punchy punch or whether it's a different form of martial arts, whatever it is. There are a lot of those sorts of films that don't carry a lot of weight, because you watch them and you're like, okay, well, I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't anything very exciting, but I got my kicks because of the action. And that, there's a lot of that out there. What this is doing is it's doing it in a way where it's using a different style of martial arts that we really haven't seen much in cinema before. So it feels a little bit different. And the way that it's crafted is like very cinematic. And that is, I think, what Evans is really putting into this film is this sense of space and how to use it and the conceit. And yes, while it may seem like very video gamey as far as like, got to get up to the next floor, beat the boss on this floor, let's get up to the next floor. Like, it does feel very much that way. I feel like I connect with these characters. There's a lot more to them than just a simplistic design of one of those other sorts of action films where you just don't have the emotional heart that this one does.
I think that's something. I think there is. I guess the question is there enough emotional heart? And clearly for, the late Ebert, there was not enough. And for me, there is. Like, I feel like there is no... obviously, there are a lot of mindless fights, like a lot of fights that are just, we need to trudge through the grunts. But none of the central fights are pointless, right? None of the, like, there's meaning to all of the other fights that like the Mad Dog fight where the two brothers are going against the Mad Dog character who is extraordinary. It feels very much to be Yayan Ruhian's, he's the actor who plays Mad Dog, his movie. Like, he is extraordinary in this thing throughout. I love him as the boss, and that fight means something. Like, that fight is gruesome and brutal, and like, I feel like there is enough character setup between these three that it makes the thing matter. And so is there enough? Yes, there's enough. I felt something.
Yeah, and that's there's the connection. Obviously, we start with him and his wife, so there's something simple there. Something with him and his dad. There's this instant tension amongst the ranks because the boss is telling everybody, we're going to go in and do this. And one of the rookies says, why are we the ones who are doing this? And the boss's right hand starts yelling at him, like, you'll do what you're told, blah, blah, blah. And so you get this sense of who these characters are. And then you meet the lieutenant, and he has a different perspective on things. And then we go into this situation where the next person that we really meet outside of the building is a tenant. And he's just a normal tenant who happens to, unfortunately, live in this hellhole. I don't know why he and his sick wife ended up here, but it speaks very, frustratingly to the housing market, apparently. And he just is trying to bring medicine up. And that creates this tension between our hero and the a-hole of the SWAT team and this guy. And that becomes a key part of the story as we kind of move on. And so, yeah, it's interesting because there are so many things in here that on the surface you could say, yeah, I've also seen these same beats in some of these really crappy action movies. So I guess the reason that it ends up working is the way that Evans directs it and the way that he crafted the characters with enough gravitas where I find enough beats within the way that they're performing to connect to them in ways that I don't in some of those other action films.
I think so too. Now, speaking of all of that, though, how did you feel about the big reveal, the big twist?
About the brother. Well,
not the brother, the lieutenant. Like, really, or the
yeah.
There's this old man who's with
Lieutenant Wayu.
He's on this raid, right? Lieutenant Wayu. He's there, and he's leading the SWAT team. And then it is revealed pretty early on, I think probably 20, 30 minutes on, that they're alone in this building. There is no backup. Nobody is coming to save them. They have essentially narratively closed off any sense of rescue. Although, how believable is that? Like, if you really radioed out to, the police block and said, hey, we're trapped in this apartment building, don't you think they would have come? Somebody would have come? I don't know.
Well, yeah, but then they would be answering a lot of questions. And I think there
were no questions to be answered. That was the objective.
That's the thing that he's trying to avoid, is he doesn't want to have a conversation revealing why did you come to this building in the first place without letting us know, without getting permission to do this, and that's the real dilemma. And so, yeah, once that's revealed that they can't call in reinforcements, you start getting a sense, okay, what's up with this lieutenant? What do we not know that we're going to find out? And, we certainly do, that he is somehow tied in. he's corrupt and he's tied in with Tama, who is the villain. He is the big bad who's running this place. And there's a whole story there. And so that's, again, it works in context of what Evans is giving us as a sense of this story. Again, it's not overly creative. It's nothing new, but it works. And I just end up buying all of it. And there's such a fine line between a crappy action movie that has these same beats and this film. And I think it boils down to the way Evans crafted it in his writing and directing and the way that he directed. And I mean, he got these actors, the way that he got all of these different people, a lot of whom weren't necessarily, actors. They were more, I think, what's the guy who is the head of the group? Jaka. It's Jaka. Yeah. Sergeant Jaka. He was a judo champion. And so, these people who aren't necessarily actors, but they come into this feeling like they can carry this thing. And so I connect with the characters. And so I think it just boils down to the way Evans puts it together.
I think so too. And that's why I asked about that twist, because that's the other leg on this stool, right? We have all the action, this deliriously violent, destructive action. We have the emotional story of what gets our young protagonist in the movie and what he's leaving behind at home, the pregnant wife. His stakes are obviously very high. And then we have the political story and the degree to which you buy the fact that this lieutenant is dirty and trying to become a kingpin on his own by working with and against this other kingpin who is 5 steps ahead of him the whole time, who said, you're never going to get out of here, you have no vehicle, you're mine because I've been buying off people that are higher than you're just an errand boy. When that reveal came by, I feel like, it's not one of those that a shot that I necessarily would have called. I feel like I was distracted enough by the movie that I didn't see it coming. But had we stopped and said, what do you think's going to happen next? I might have been able to call it. That didn't end up being a distraction to me, right? It didn't end up taking me out of the film in any way that was a believable, action movie, duplicitous authority twist. I liked it. I liked the way it was done. I thought performatively it was handled well. I liked watching that, watching the way they shot the sergeant or the lieutenant dying, I thought was really artfully done. And that goes to a lot of how they handled the fights and effects in this movie. It's just really beautifully done, as violent as it was.
You mean the sergeant dying? The lieutenant, they walk the lieutenant out at the end.
Right. They walk the sergeant died. This is going to be very the old man. The old man in his civvies, in his khakis. When he dies, they shoot him from the top and he falls, so you just see his feet laying down in the corner. I thought that was really great.
You're saying the bad guy.
At the end of the movie in the stairwell, there is Tama.
He's the bad guy. Tama is the bad guy. Right. When Wyu shoots Tama is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
When Wyu the lieutenant shoots Tama the bad guy, the villain.
Yes. Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay. So many names. You
threw me when you said the lieutenant and then the sergeant, and I was like, "Are we talking about who are we talking about here?" Yeah,
I'm not good at people.
Well, especially, and I kept laughing as the names would come up on the subtitles because it's Rama, Tama, Jaka, Andy, Bowo, Budi. They're all Dagu. There are so many 4-letter names.
Yeah,
that I'm like, wait, which one's Rama? Which one's Tama? Jaka,
Iko, Ali. Don't forget Gofar.
Why? Yeah,
a lot.
Well, and then, adding to the legs on the stool is, of course, the story of the brothers. And that's another thing that I think we've probably seen play out in many, many other films. And, Evans, to that end, is not doing a whole lot of new stuff with the way that he's building his story here. We're getting a story of, one brother's on the good side of the law and the other's on the bad side of the law. Haven't seen that before. And we kind of start getting that the moment that Andy sees Rama in the footage. And Rama, we already know that he's going into this, or we find out he's going into this to look for his brother. He says, when I saw your picture pop up, I can't remember. He was horrified that his brother was one of the people that they potentially were going to have to take down. And so you get that relationship. And I think that works incredibly well in the story just because of the characters and the way that Evans crafts it again. So I think it's so easy to dismiss this type of film, but I think when you have a person putting it together with such passion for the simple moments of the story with all these characters, and knows how to craft a film. And that's, I think, the thing that makes this thing sing is that, I mean, just the action sequences, the fluidity of everything. And it's filmmakers who are trying to do things in new and exciting ways. And, we talked about this a little bit before the show in our pre-show chat that we have for members. If you're interested in hearing more of those, you can learn more at thenextreel.com. And we talked about kind of this nature of the evolution of action. And a key part of what we're getting here is how they're playing with the camera. And you have a moment where, they're trying to get out of one room. So they take an axe to the floor and basically cut a hole into the floor so they can get down into the next room. And the camera,
Dizzying.
Yeah, and the camera is on a thing called a fig rig, which Mike Figgis had actually invented back when he was in the 90s doing some, I don't know, it might have been the one where it's like a real-time movie. But it's essentially a small handheld rig that you can very easily maneuver the camera with in these sorts of films, these sorts of scenes. And so you have a moment where the actor drops from one floor to the other, and then the camera drops down with him. And they actually had the DP, they had some people holding him, and he kind of drops down to the point where his waist goes through the hole. And then there's another camera operator on the next floor down standing on a table who grabs the fig rig from him and then moves down into the room to continue the action scene. And that's the sort of just like ingenious way that a director, when they're doing something really interesting or trying to come up with a way to, take things up to the next level, that's the sort of thing you're going to find. And it makes it that much more exciting.
Well, it feels super indie, right? Knowing that there were a lot of people who worked on this movie, it's still like watching the behind the scenes stuff, watching them, truss up the DP like you're describing and throw him through the hole in the floor. It's extraordinary. And that fig rig was a big deal. Like there were no steady cams used on this movie. And yet it felt like it really walked the line between being, shaky handheld and Steadicam smooth. Like I feel like it was still an exuberant camera. Like it had me in the action, because it's such a small rig and it's like disconnected from everything. Put it wherever they wanted to put it, but it didn't at all feel to me like it was either too sanitized or so jerky. I couldn't track the action. I never felt like I lost track of the action. That was incredible.
It's exciting, and that's what works incredibly well when you have the sorts of movements that these actors do. And obviously when you're watching a scene like this, it is you can't craft stuff like this without rehearsal because of the choreography that's required for these fight sequences. And I mean, this style of fighting that's called silat is they said that it's a great style for it changes depending on the size of the space that you're in. And so they were able to use it very effectively in a tight hallway, also in a big room. And they were able to find interesting ways to kind of craft it. But you have like such movement with the way the characters are moving. And you have like when Rama is taking on, I don't know, I call him Crazy Eyes, the one who's just got like these really intense, frightening killer eyes, with his little group of people. He's the one who stabs the machete through the wall a bunch of times as he's trying to find him.
Which one was crazy? Was he Bow Wow or Dagu or Gofar? We're gonna not get that right.
I don't know if it's in the there's enough in the plot description to see like when they're hiding behind the wall, but I don't know. But it's shortly after that when he leaves one of the injured guy behind with the tenant who had saved them. He leaves and he's out on his own, and then he is attacked by the group of assassins led by, I just call them Crazy Eyes. But you have him and like 3 or 4 other people all attacking him. And the way that they move, like he attacks one guy and that guy falls to the ground and then he turns and attacks the next guy. And it just kind of keeps going and going. And I don't know, I find that style, it's obviously there's a lot of camera choreography. There's a lot of acting choreography, fight choreography. And I just find it incredibly effective the way that Evans built all of it.
Did you happen to track any like long shots in this movie?
I was wondering, because in my head, I kept thinking that one of these is going to be like a long tracking shot through a fight. And there were some long shots, but it wasn't so much, at least my memory was, it wasn't designed like in the second film. There's a very prominent one that is fairly well known in the car chase. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was kind of waiting for, because I've heard of that shot, even though I haven't watched the second movie yet. And so watching this movie, especially coming off of a movie like Old Boy, where you have the long hallway shot that is so legendary, I found myself surprised that they didn't go for something like that in this movie. Like it wasn't some sort of an implied competition between movies like this, that they always have to have like a 5-minute tracking shot.
Yeah, I mean, this does have shots that go up to about a minute and a half is about the longest that we're getting here. It's nothing too long, not like that film, where we have those much longer shots. So it's interesting that I guess the complexity boils down to what are you doing within those 90 seconds?
Sure.
Like how complex is it to drop down from one floor to the other, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, that was so good. All right, what's your do you have a favorite fight? Is it easy for you to like break that down?
One of my favorite scenes is the machete in the wall. I find that to be just a really, like, the tension feels palpable in there. While he's stabbing through the wall, the knife kind of slices into Rama's cheek, and then then that guy goes off and starts talking to the tenant while the knife is still stuck in his cheek, and Rama has to very carefully like move his hand up to the blade, so as the guy pulls it out, he's pinching the blade to pull all of his blood off of it, so that the guy doesn't see that it's coming out bloody. It's like the way that plays, I find just intense and incredibly thrilling. So I love that one. I find Mad Dog to be such an exciting character, and he gets two incredible fight scenes. The first one is when he is pointing the gun at the guy. This is the what did we decide his name was? Jaka, the sergeant, and then he puts the gun away. He says it's guns. It's not as fun. It's, I mean, you kind of quoted it at the start of the show.
Yeah.
There's very little joy in that. I would rather fight you mano a mano, basically. And then they fight, and then he kills Jaka. That is exhilarating to watch as Mad Dog, bounces around. I mean, he's just an insane, performer, the way that he handles himself in those scenes. But then you top that with the scene where he is taking on the two brothers, as you already called out. And it's, that to me is probably the action sequence of the film, because it's just a thrill watching as it's just going back and forth between one brother and the other. And how is Mad Dog able to, stay up through the whole thing? But I guess that's why he's called Mad Dog.
Well, and that's how he's set up, right? He's all fists and legs and whatever in the beginning. Like he has these two lieutenants. One of them has the brains, and the other one is all fists and legs.
Yeah, which is funny because he's so small.
Yeah, he's so small, but man, that is the thing that strikes me. These guys are exceptionally strong, physically strong. Like, I don't care if we're talking about, putting them on wires that get cleaned out. I don't know what's going on. But when I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, watching these guys throw each other around unwired on mats, they are very physically strong. It actually makes the movie better after watching them practice, to realize just how much they're wailing on each other and throwing each other around and, hitting each other with heavy weights. And it's extraordinary. It is extraordinary physical stuff.
I just have to say that the guy who I call Crazy Eyes, his name is Alfredus Godfred, and sadly, he's just credited as Machete Gang #1.
Oh, no. Well, that's sad.
He needed a name. I'm just going to go with Crazy Eyes. I think that's what we need to call him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about the script, the direction. Do you notice anything? So this is what I wanted to get to about Gareth Evans. Like, does this feel like a Gareth Evans movie? Do you know enough about Gareth Evans to make a comment like that?
I don't think I have a background with him. What I know about Gareth Evans is He's Welsh, and
Yep.
his wife is from Indonesia, I believe, who was credited as a producer on this. And what he had said is that, he and his wife were living in Wales, and he was struggling trying to make his mark as a filmmaker. And he was not finding a lot of stuff. He was struggling trying to crack in. And his wife kind of suggested that he look at this documentary in Indonesia and maybe direct that. And I think she got him in touch with them, and he ended up getting hired to direct this documentary. And it was about this martial arts style called Pencak silat. And in the process of that, he became really fascinated with the way that it worked and everything. And that's where he ended up meeting Iko Uwais, who is his lead in this film. And he was he worked as a delivery guy for a phone company, but he was really good in this martial arts style. And so they ended up becoming friends and ended up working together on this first film. Evans became so fascinated with the style that, he did this film Merantau, which is really focused on this style of action for it. And it got enough attention for him to work on this next one. The next one, though, this film, it was actually a much bigger film, and it was too big, and so he couldn't get the budget, so they had to cut it down, and he did this film. The sequel for this is really kind of that first film that he was wanting to do, the one that's much more large in scope. And so I don't have a whole lot of info about him other than he seemed to really tap into working in the Indonesian film industry, and he really seems to have tapped into strong work as an action director.
It surprises me after watching this that he isn't one of those directors that got like the biggest of the big tentpole, big budget movie project after this. Like it would surprise me if he didn't get offers to do like, I don't know, a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or something. Didn't he get Star Wars?
No, that's a different Gareth. I thought you might be thinking
Gareth,
whatever the other Gareth now.
Well, that's what was so confusing, because when I started watching this movie, I thought, oh, this is the guy. Didn't he go on and direct like Godzilla or whatever it was? Like, no, it's not. This is the guy who maybe should have.
Right. That's Gareth Edwards. This is Gareth Evans. It is very confusing. One's from where I think he's just English, Gareth Edwards, and this one's from Wales. So yeah, it's very funny, the lines there. But no, this Evans though had been offered to direct one of the films for Justice League Dark, but he passed on that. So, and then as you mentioned, he did pitch an idea to do Deathstroke, and supposedly, this has been 5 years ago now. I don't know if the film is still being made. He said he's no longer involved in it. So, so I feel like he's one of those filmmakers who, I don't know, just seems to be struggling to still tap in. I mean, he's still making stuff, like we mentioned, Apostle and Havoc is coming out. So he's still out there making stuff. And, he could be one of those filmmakers like, without knowing, I'm just going to say like Edgar Wright, who maybe ends up butting heads with the powers that be at these big tentpole franchises and wants to do his own thing, and they want him to do their specific thing. So who knows?
Well, I'm a fan of pretty much every Gareth that's working right now in film, because I also am a big, Rogue One it was Gareth Edwards, and he was the Gareth I thought we were going to be talking about because I'd never seen The Raid. But now I am clear, and I actually have two Gareths to love.
All the more Gareths to love. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I am eager to check out this second movie. I've heard so much about it. Can't believe I haven't actually sat down to watch it yet. But this is great.
What I think is funny is like Iko Uwais, who is the lead here, and Yayan Ruhian, plus a third guy who we don't see here, but we'll see in the next film. I think his name is Sesep Arif Rahman. Those three, because of these films, J.J. Abrams really enjoyed these films, and he cast them in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. People may recall they're the ones, the kind of the gangsters who are tracking down Han Solo and Chewbacca, and they have they're trying to get the Millennium Falcon. I can't remember, but
that's right.
It's that whole, that, I don't know. It was a thing that my daughter and I said far too often to each other. Tell that to Conja Club. We said that.
That's right. When they're standing on that long gangplank, one on either side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before they let go of the big tentacle monster.
Oh, the tentacle monster. Yes. But anyway, they are the sorts of actors also that I would love to see popping up in more stuff. Not just Gareth Evans, I would love to have doing more stuff, but I would love to see these actors getting more opportunity in more international cinema. I don't know. Well, I'm looking right now. It looks like at least Iko Uwais has, I forgot he was in Snake Eyes. I forgot he had popped up in that.
Right.
So, plus he was in Stuber.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
That came and went.
And he's going to be in the Expendables 4. So he is somebody who has actually found a way into much bigger things.
Can I tell you my biggest problem with this movie?
Sure.
I do have, as much as I love the movie, I do have a problem with it. And you actually already hinted at my problem with this movie.
Did I?
Because you said they have to go into this building. It's something like 15 floors, right? You remember saying that?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So the boss, I think in the movie they actually say he's on the 16th floor.
The 15th.
Right, and that's what I remember from the script. But the poster, which I saw before I started watching the movie, says 1 ruthless crime lord, 20 elite cops, 30 floors of chaos. So the entire time I'm watching this movie, I'm finding myself incredibly frustrated that they don't get any higher than the 16th floor. They spend a lot of time around 5, 6, 7, and there's a lot of climbing, but nobody ever gets to the 30th floor. But then you go to the poster, Andy, and you count the floors. You know how many floors there are? 20. You don't even need to count. I already did. There's only 20 floors on the poster. So whoever wrote the tagline for the poster didn't even count the fakakta floors on the poster of the building that's on the poster. I have a real problem with building floor continuity.
Apparently so. My goodness.
You tell me there's 30 floors of chaos. I want to see all 30 of those floors.
Well, this is apparently...
Maybe they're counting up all the floors that are represented in the movie. Like their house is on the second. There's 2 more floors. Yeah. All right. Well, that was frustrating for me.
Apparently you spend too much time dwelling on the little details on the poster and let that distract you.
You're one to talk. Dwelling on little details, sir. You are one to talk. Okay, that's all I got.
Well, I was talking about actors who popped up in English films or other films, and Yayan has also. We'll be talking about it, but he does appear in John Wick Chapter 3: Parabellum. So,
outstanding!
We will get to see more of Yayan in later.
He's so
films.
good. Oh, so good.
What did you think of the villain, Ray Sahatepi, as Tama? Did you like the way that he was designed as a villain, like walking around in his tank top and flip-flops?
He was fine. I guess I liked the way they bring us into the movie. We talked in the beginning about the difference between the director's cut. That opening shot is one of the shots that is, in the unedited cut, gives you 2 more seconds of brain. And so he shoots everybody. They're all lined up. He shoots them all execution style, except the one guy that he puts the gun on his shoulder and says, hold this for me, where he goes to get more bullets, but actually finds a hammer. And that tells us an awful lot about his character, that he comes back not with bullets, but with a hammer and kills the guy with a hammer. Super violent, gives us a real sense of why he's the crime lord. Totally get it. He wasn't really, for me, where the story was. Like, I suppose the parallel would be I was as interested in Hans Gruber as I was in Bruce Willis's character. And so I was interested in both sides of that story. In this one, I was so much more interested in the police and their work toward getting to the other smaller bosses. I didn't find myself really longing for the Tama side of the story. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't bad. It just, I felt like it was, it was more of a figurehead of a aspirational kind of ending to reach him. But I didn't find myself really thinking a lot about it.
I don't know enough about the actor, Ray Sahatepi, who plays him, except that he has been acting in Indonesian cinema since 1981, so is very prominent in Indonesian cinema. And so I wonder, for an Indonesian audience coming into this, like seeing him playing this character, like I wonder if that, like, it has to bring a lot more to it, than what we're getting as seeing it for the first time. I really enjoy those little moments that we get with him toward the beginning. He's got a lot of great lines, or just scenes. Like, I love when he hops onto the loudspeaker and tells everybody, "Hey guys, there are these cops in the building. If you want to help me take them out, you can stay here rent free." Basically, like, there are moments with him that I really enjoy. One of my favorites is when he reveals to Andy that he knows that he is working with the cops. Basically, he saved that cop and pulled him into the other room. There is that that moment that we have there where he stabs his knife through Andy's hand and basically reveals his paranoia pays off. I really, really enjoy the way that scene plays. I get your perspective on it, and I think that's why likely his two underlings I find more interesting, because there's a little more going on with both of them, and he's basically just sitting here. We do get the stuff at the end, but in context of what we get with him, I still find him to be quite compelling.
I do like the scene you mentioned, one of those scenes where he is talking to Andy and Mad Dog are standing with him, and Mad Dog has just dragged the cop, the dead cop, on the elevator and up into his office, which I thought was a great scene. But then he does that really menacing interrogation and asks Andy to show him his hands. You've brought me nothing. I thought that was that's a great scene. So when I was spending time with him, I think he's great. When he wasn't on screen, I wasn't thinking, let's get back to Tama. I guess that's what I'm saying. Whereas, I really loved the bouncing back and forth. There are so many other of these kinds of action movies where I love the bouncing back and forth between the protagonist and our villain. And this one, I found myself just thinking, let's see some more of marching up the building. All 16, 20, or 30 floors of it.
However many it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is a fun one. So let's keep this train moving, though. So we will be right back. But first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Mike Kieran, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and the numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. All right, Andy, how to do it awards season.
For action film like this, it did well for itself. It had 9 wins with 22 other nominations. At the Toronto International Film Festival, it won the Midnight Madness People Choice Award. And at the Dublin International Film Festival, it won Best Film and an Audience Award. Imagine Film Festival, it won the Silver Scream Award. It had a lot of these great wins. Over at the Maya Awards, this was an interesting one that I had found. The Maya Awards actually was a brand new award that had just been created this year in Indonesia. It's an Indonesian film award created by Indonesian online film enthusiasts who are active on Twitter. So I don't know what to make of this. They follow the concept of similar awards with nominations and awards given to each year's best local productions. So the fact that there is this group of Twitter film enthusiasts who started up their own awards in 2012, it looks like COVID may have ended it, but they were doing well up to that particular point. This film did well at those awards. It ended up getting 10 awards. It had the most awards at the Maya Awards that year. It won Best Editing. It ended up losing Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Sound Design, Best Poster Design, Best Special Effects, Supporting Actor, Tama, Ray Sahatepi was nominated, Best Feature Film, Best Director, Makeup and Hairstyling. So, but, For what it is, for a Twitter Film Enthusiast Award.
Yeah.
It got something.
Not bad.
Interestingly, at South by Southwest, it was nominated for the Audience Award. And I guess this just speaks to the variety of films that end up in some of these categories. It lost to the documentary Chasing Ice. Thought that was interesting.
Chasing Ice, have we talked about that ever? That sounds familiar. Why does that sound so familiar?
Documentary.
Climate change documentary, I'm sure, right?
It is a climate change documentary. You're correct. Unfortunately, it did not receive any nominations at the Citra Awards, which is actually the Indonesian equivalent to the Academy Awards.
No, well, actually, that's probably not a surprise.
I don't know if I looked at the films that won in 2012, I don't know if I would know any of them.
Any of them, right. All right. How about the box office?
Well, Evans' action extravaganza cost $1.1 million to make, which is $1.25 million in today's dollars. The movie premiered at TIFF September 8th, 2011, before release in Indonesia and other Asian Pacific countries March 23rd, 2012, as well as over here in the States, where it opened in limited release opposite the Hunger Games. It did well for itself despite a limited ad campaign, but it did grow to 881 screens and became 11th at the box office in its fourth week. All in all, it ended up earning just under $4.7 million domestically and $5.9 million internationally, for a total gross of about $10.6 million in today's dollars. On top of that, it was a big success on home video. In fact, it became the UK's overall best-selling foreign film of 2013 on home video, so it did well. That puts the film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $92,000, enough to greenlight the sequel.
That's crazy. It's crazy that it did. I really can't believe it didn't make more money. I mean, it's profitable. Let's celebrate. Wahoo! But the fact that it only cost $1 million to make, and it didn't make more than $10 million, the level of quality of this action movie is stunning to me. Is that not surprising? You don't seem surprised.
You know, it also boils down to the ad budget that these distributors are going to have to put into it. And Sony Pictures Classics generally doesn't have huge budgets to market their releases. A lot of it is the word of mouth and getting it in front of critics and stuff like that. And, you know, when Ebert throws one of his reviews like he did, it does make it harder for audiences to want to jump on board.
Well, he was wrong.
One of those things.
All right. Well, I'm really, really glad we watched it. I'm so looking forward to the second one. Let's see if I can clear my schedule. Let's just knock that out right now.
Well, we'll be right back for the ratings, but first, here's the trailer for next week's movie, The Raid 2, Barandal.
Nama saya Rama. Saya tahu siapa kamu. Abang saya bilang, saya bisa percaya Bapak.
Abang lu nggak salah. Lu suka atau tidak suka dengan peristiwa hari ini, Reza dan anak buahnya akan ngincer lu. Mereka akan ngincer lu sampai ketemu. Kalau kita nggak cepat bertindak, lu bakal hilang. Keluarga lu juga. Sekarang ini kota dibagi rata. Antara tokoh kita bangun dan kota Gumi keluarga Jepang. Uco, anaknya bangun, sekarang ada di penjara. Ini saat yang tepat buat lu masuk dan dekatin dia. Gue mau lu gabung sama tim gue. Lu bakal dilatih ulang sampai lu punya kemampuan yang lebih baik untuk membela kepentingan yang benar.
Artinya,
Lu harus gue tangkap.
Andy, have you ever heard of Letterboxd?
Tell me about it.
I was at a film festival this weekend. I'm not sure that I told you that. I was at the Oregon Screams Film Festival, and this is the first time I've been in a community of people big enough and film lovers dedicated enough that they actually would come up to me after our conversation and ask me, "Are you on Letterboxd? What's your profile?" Andy, they approached me in public and asked to join up and friend me on Letterboxd. That is a first. We've been using Letterboxd for years now. And I got the public nod. I am friends with new people, for real, flesh and blood people. Not that stunned me. I'm so excited about this that I'm really upping my game by actually reviewing more movies on Letterboxd. You can find us at letterboxd.com/thenextreel. But if you fall in love with it like we have and you want to up your game on Letterboxd, get rid of the ads, support the team. You can get 20% off by visiting thenextreel.com/letterboxd. We are proud to be sponsored by the Letterboxd team. That 20% off also counts for renewals as well as new signups. So support the team, join us, friend us. I'm Pete Wright, Andy's Soda Creek Film, and we are the Next Reel. Okay, Andy, what'd you think? 6 stars?
That was very like, we
stars?
are Marshall.
We are Marshall.
We are the Next Reel. Oh.
What'd you think? How many stars?
I was honestly surprised when I looked at my Letterboxd when I rewatched it. I'm like, wow, I only gave this 3.5 stars that first time that I watched it. And, I think a lot of it is in my head. I'm always like, there are a lot of good films that I love that are 3.5 star, and it's okay. But I feel like there is, while the story itself may be one of those, kind of straight up action movies where nothing is a real surprise, I find that the way that Gareth Evans crafted it is just exceptional. So I'm going to say 4.5. It could be 5, but it's way up there. I'm going to say 4.5.
As an action movie, like if again, if we're taking the movie as what it is, like as an action movie, it is among the best of the straight up hardcore fisticuff action movies that I've seen. For me, there is no doubt it is a 5-star movie. And delivers exactly what it is. Now, will I see The Raid 2 and think to myself, oh, no, The Raid 2 is actually 5 stars and it's better. Maybe The Raid 1 actually has to be 4 stars. That could happen. I'm flexy. Everything's fluid on Letterboxd. You know me. But I am hardcore about no half stars. You know that. That's not fluid. So 5 stars. Give it a heart. And let's move on.
All right, well, that will give the film a 4 3/4 stars with a big old heart from us. So that'll round up to 5. That's where it's going to be on our Letterboxd. Remember, visit thenextreel.com/letterboxd to get your pro or patron membership. It works for renewals as well. We are the Next Reel. Speaking of the Next Reel, remember, we've talked about membership. If you want to learn about membership, you get all of your episodes a week early. You get bonus content at the start and end of every episode. You get member bonus episodes. Our October member bonus episode was Gremlins 2. And we do Flickchart re-ranking episodes. We do retake episodes after each series where we talk about the series as a whole. There's just a ton of stuff that members get. You don't have all those ads either. So if you want to learn more about membership, go to thenextreel.com/membership and consider supporting us. It's a great way to kind of show your love and to get all sorts of awesome extra stuff.
So what did you think about The Raid Redemption? We want to know. Hop into the Show Talk channel on Discord where we'll be talking about this movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins. Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
How low'd you go?
How low can I go?
Well, I think you can go to a half star. I think that's as low as you can go.
I was just you were just limbo. Singing. I was just doing the.
You
limbo.
Were just okay.
Are we going to limbo? Who's going to go lower first?
I went to a half star.
Okay, so I'm 1.5. So I guess I'll go first. I got a 1.5 by Deja Vu in Film, who just says this: the measures people will go to not pay rent.
That's actually really good. You should have gone second. That's a good punchline. Mine's all serious.
Okay.
This is I'm changing. I had one that used the word fetishization in it, and I thought I'm a moth to the flame when it comes to the word fetishization. But I'm going to go ahead and change it up on the fly here and do a half star by Lomedai, who says, once in a while, there's a movie that makes you reflect on your disconnect with the audience at large. 300 was a good example. Titanic and Avatar are others. All total train wrecks of movies that seem to get a rabid following for no reason I can see, even if I try to be objective. The Raid is another one of this ilk. The buzz surrounding this flick was immense, and on paper it seemed to tick all the boxes. When I sat down to watch it, though, I got a lumbering, unexciting, unoriginal, badly acted movie that's not even able to get so bad it's funny kudos. No redeeming qualities at all in this total waste of time. Ouch.
Dang.
That was really
serious. Serious and
thoughtful hate for this movie. Yeah, once in a while there are reviews that really reflect your total disconnect with people who review movies poorly.
I bet he enjoyed Ebert's review.
As poor movies, not poorly. They probably feel quite good about that review.
That was a very a very Gandalfian thing to say. Are you saying it's a good day because it's good? Or are you saying you want me to have a good day? Or that it is a day and you feel good upon it?
Can you hear? Okay, before I say the closing words,
is
can
this
you do
a bad review because it's a bad movie, or the reviewer is bad
the review
in a bad
badly, or you're not happy with your review that you gave it? All right, thanks, Letterboxd. It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
Oh, you're telling me. Producing this show week after week is so much fun, but it does require a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you, and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
The Originals page at thenextreel.com/originals links to the source material from all of our adapted film discussions. Purchasing through our links support the show at no extra cost to you.
In Season 12, the focus was big franchises and series. We covered both Paddington films, adapted from the beloved children's book character created by Michael Bond.
Oh, I love those films so much.
Hugh Grant is perfect.
For our Pitch Perfect series, the first film was adapted from Mickey Rapkin's nonfiction book about collegiate a cappella competitions.
It's like a short story of my life, literally. I lived college a cappella.
Sing it, brother.
I lived college a cappella.
I didn't mean literally.
You know who you're talking to, right? The Twilight Saga dominated the season with 5 films adapted from Stephenie Meyer's vampire romance novels, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and the 2 Breaking Dawn parts.
Dominated with awkward romance and nonsense logic is more like it.
That too.
Another Thin Man brought us back to Dashiell Hammett's only Thin Man sequel based on other Hammett material, The Farewell Murder, that wasn't just based on the characters from the first film.
We talked about Trainspotting and its sequel, T2 Trainspotting, adapted from Irvine Welsh's novels.
I hate the sequel's name.
I do too.
And the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy adapted from J.R.R. Tolkien's epic fantasy series.
Love these.
Extended editions all the way, baby.
Plus, all the Mission Impossible films based on the 1960s TV series.
And we've still got at least one more to go.
Members got to hear us chat about The Hustler and The Color of Money, adapted from Walter Tevis's books.
Get all of these books and more at our Originals page, thenextreel.com/originals.
Start your next read from the movies we've covered at thenextreel.com/originals.